Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I am joined by Kristin O'Neill. She is a former Cornell women's hockey player, where she was the team captain, and now she is a current member of the PWHPA. Welcome back to the podcast, Kristin, and how's everything going?
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me on again.
No problem. Thank you so much for coming back on. And what have you been up to since we last talked a few months ago?
Yeah, so I've been training in Montreal with the PWHPA and with Hockey Canada. I'm currently in Halifax, Nova Scotia, with for the selection camp for the World Championships, which start May 6th. So I'm here for a week. We're playing 3 games here, and then the World's roster will be selected sometime later next week. And so that's where I'm at. I'm quarantined in my room right now, but we're practicing. But that's the only time we can leave our room.
Yeah, I know. And you had another training camp in Calgary a few months ago. What was that experience like for you preparing for this tournament coming up?
Yeah, so we've had one in Calgary, and then we were also in Halifax not too long ago. So both camps were pretty similar. We played 3 games, I think, in each camp, and a few practices. But they were really nice change up from training in Montreal every day. I mean, we've been off ice and on ice training for about 12 months now, so it's pretty grueling in the off season. So it was really nice to play some competitive games again.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, being in that bubble environment for the camp, is there any adjustments you have to make, and how hard is that?
It's a bit hard being like because you're on your own all day, aside from when you're on the ice. So I think that's a little weird for people, but just being in a hotel room all day is a little different from your everyday life. But people are getting pretty used to it now, so it's great. This week we actually have a nice big room with the kitchen and everything, so it's been really nice to cook your own meals and stuff.
Definitely. What are you cooking right now? What's the big meal going around?
Not too much. I just got some breakfast stuff, so cooking eggs in the morning and stuff. So
That's
yeah,
good. Yeah, eggs are easy to cook too. They only take like 10 minutes, so that's a
yeah,
perfect meal as well.
yeah. Not a big mess either.
Now, what's been your mindset throughout this training camp? Like, what do you hope to accomplish personally?
Yeah, so I definitely hope to accomplish. I mean, I want to be selected for the World Championships, and obviously that's everyone's goal here. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty comfortable on the ice, which is great. I know it's hard. It's harder when you're in college, coming back and forth to Team Canada and then back to your college team. But I think it's really been nice for me to train with these girls every day consistently, and not having to make that change every time I come to a camp.
Is that like the major difference you noticed training for this world championship versus the other ones you have done before?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm feeling more confident because these are my competitors every day, whereas I would only get to compete with these girls once or twice a season. So I think that's been a big benefit for me in um, training with this group of girls every day.
Now you have a lot of Cornell alumni at this Hockey Canada training camp. What's that like for yourself? And do you guys ever talk about your former Cornell playing experiences?
Yeah, it's funny because we all have such different experiences. I mean, some of the girls I know, Jamie and Micah, I both played with them, but they were in my class. But a lot of the other girls are much older than us, so they had a completely different experience. And Doug Dara is actually here as well. He's my head coach for the week, and he coached all of the Cornell alums. So it's funny to just compare all of our experiences, even when we are coached by the same person. So it's interesting because everyone just has such different stories and opinions. But it's really an honor to share this experience with fellow Cornell alum.
Is it nice seeing your former head coach again? And has he been different coaching you this year versus in college?
It's definitely weird seeing him here. I'm just so used to being in the same environment in Ithaca with him, but it's awesome seeing such a familiar face. And he just has such a calming effect on everyone. And he's a great coach, and I'm really happy to have him here, especially being my coach for the week too.
Hmm. Now, what's the major difference you've noticed between training for world championships versus training with the PWHPA?
I think the compete level, it just gets that much higher. I think everyone in the back of their mind, they know that a lot is at stake, and they want to push each person wants to push their teammates so that we come away from this experience with a gold medal. And obviously that's in everyone's head, so I think just the compete level is higher. And a new environment is always nice. I mean, we're training at the same place every day, so I think just switching it up and coming here just makes you all that more excited.
Now, do you know when your next event will be with the PWHPA?
It's unknown right now, just with the COVID restrictions and everything. It's really hard to get the governmental what's the word, I don't know, just access to rinks and facilities. We got to they have to keep everyone safe. So I think they're monitoring how everything's going, and I think just have to take it day by day to find out.
Mhm.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, definitely. Now, how have you been preparing for your next event with the PWHPA, and talk about training in the Montreal region and some of the players you get to go up against every single day in practice?
Yeah, of course. So with the PWHPA, we skate twice a week, and then with Hockey Canada, we skate three more times. And then the Tuesday and Thursday with the PWHPA skates, we normally, well, as of late, we've been scrimmaging often, so we actually have pretty big numbers because we have a bit of like they allowed us to have more players on ice. And so it's been really nice actually to get some game experience with those scrimmages. So that's been a really great thing for us, for our training group. And then, yeah, lots of Team Canada girls, about 13 of us, I think. And then I think just under 10 girls just with the PWHPA. So we have a great amount of people to actually scrimmage every week.
Now, is it hard not having played a professional or I guess a competitive game in quite some time?
Yeah, it's very challenging. I mean, the scrimmages, like I just said, have been awesome, but I mean, it's really hard to replicate a real game without actual refs and just that mindset of it. So it's challenging once you get here and actually have to play a game, but we've been really lucky to get a few under our belt. So we know the tempo and how fast the pace of the game here is. So it's been much easier after we get those one or two games done with.
Yeah, and how do you try to take off that rust when you start playing in a competitive game for the first time? Like, what's the key to getting rid of that rust? Because I think you've kind of experienced it a little bit playing with Cornell after having those long off seasons.
Yeah, for sure. Um, it's sort of funny because you can do all the conditioning and the off ice training you want and all the practicing, but nothing really replicates a game. So I think just acknowledging that things might be rusty at first, and that's when you have to stick to the basics and stick to simple goals as a team and as an individual. That way your confidence doesn't get low, and you just acknowledge the fact that you're not going to be perfect from the start.
Now, one thing I ask all the guests I have on the podcast is how do you balance both being a student athlete and playing hockey at the same time in college? So my question to you is how do you balance being a professional athlete and having a full-time job as well?
I actually don't have a full-time job, but that's uh, something I'm actually really lucky for because I'm with the Hockey Canada program and I don't necessarily have time for a full time job. But I know there are some girls in the PWHPA that aren't benefited with that. Um, and it's definitely challenging. They can only come to really early mornings or late night skates. So I'm really lucky to be in that position. But if that ever does happen, I think it'll resemble being in school again. You'll really have to manage your time wisely.
Now, how did you manage your time, I guess, when you were at Cornell?
Um, Definitely just like getting things done with the few hours you have during the day. I really am a huge advocate for a good night's sleep, so I'm not one to stay up late and do my homework. I do wake up early and take advantage of that time. Yeah, so I think it's just managing your time with the time you have in between classes and practice.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely the opposite. I sometimes stay up a little bit too late doing some homework,
Yeah,
so I definitely have to work on my
yeah.
sleeping habits.
You definitely regret that in the morning.
Oh, definitely. When you have an 8:30 class and you have to get up like at 7 just to get ready for it, it's brutal, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Mhm.
Now, what does your training look like so far, preparing for the Hockey Canada World Championships and preparing for the PWHPA? And what challenges have you faced trying to prepare with less ice time being available and gyms being closed as well?
Yeah, it's definitely been a struggle for all athletes, everyone in general, but um, we've been pretty lucky in Montreal. Our gym has stayed open for the majority of the time. But in the summer, I was training in a gym for most of the July and August, but in those spring months, I was training at home. I got pretty creative in making a barbell out of I think an old broom and some cement blocks, which was interesting, but it did the trick. So I think I really I don't take advantage of being in the gym now. So it's been really nice to be back in the gym and on the ice with a full group instead of only one or two players like we were in the early fall.
Now, how do you like? What's the biggest difference, I guess, from training from home versus training in a gym? Because obviously you don't have the equipment that you do in a gym, but for
Yeah.
talking to other players, you have to do a lot of those like body weight workouts and a lot of band workouts. How do you like adjust doing workouts that way versus being in a gym that you're normally used to?
Yeah, so I'd say I'm pretty good at making those workouts up. Um, I had to get pretty creative, like I just said, but I think the biggest difference between working out at home by yourself and in a group is the motivation aspect. And just it's a lot more fun working with other girls um, and just being pushed by them every day. So I think that's a huge benefit to being back in the gym and on the ice as a group.
Do you have to do more reps at home versus the gym? Because that's something else when talking to other players, that's what they've told me.
Yeah, sometimes I think you just don't think it's enough when you're making up your own workouts and you're working out by yourself and you're worried that you're not gonna get as strong, I guess, doing the things at home. So I definitely struggled with that, but I know, um, I mean, it's not much different as long as you're putting in the work.
Definitely. And what does your on ice training look like so far? And what have you been trying to work on during this time period?
Yeah, so our on ice workout in the fall started with a lot of skill sessions, but now they've sort of transitioned into actual team practices since we have pretty big numbers, like I mentioned. Um, yeah, so we do the two scrimmages a week usually, and then the three smaller group practices are a lot of passing, shooting, small area games and stuff like that. Not so much skill sessions anymore, but definitely adjusting to the speed of the game. Not necessarily the skating speed, but the puck speed. It was a huge adjustment. So I've been working on just getting my head up and being aware of my surroundings so far.
And what is something you think you need to improve on the most to your game? And how have you tried to improve that area of your game when you're training with Team Canada and with the PWHPA?
Um, I think, like I just mentioned, just being aware of my surroundings and where my teammates are at all times. I think that's a huge aspect of the game at this level because you have it's so fast. The puck moves so fast and our feet move so fast that you have to be aware where you're gonna pass the puck before you even get it. So I think that aspect of my game is a huge area I am improving on, but also need to keep getting better at. I know even the best NHL players still need to get better at that. So it's a game of improvements, but I think with the players I'm playing with now, they're a lot of them are very aware where everyone is. So I learn a lot from just watching them too.
And is there any adjustment you've had to make going from Cornell to being a professional athlete?
Um, I think in college hockey you can get away with being less physical, especially being a small, fast player. Sometimes you can get around just by reaching with your stick or something like that, or not necessarily going into the pile. But Hockey Canada and just being a professional athlete now really harps on the physicality of the game. So I think that's also an adjustment I've had to make. I have to get more physical.
Hmm. Yeah, and watching other women's hockey games this past year, it seems like the physicality level has raised up in the past few years. So my question to you is, do you think hitting should be allowed in women's hockey?
Um, no, I don't think so. I think it would really change the game. Um, I think it's pretty physical as it is. I don't necessarily really think it should be allowed in men's hockey either. I think it does take away the speed and skill of the game. So um, I'm honestly happy that it's not allowed in women's hockey. I think a lot of people always say when they watch us play, we're a lot more technical and skill based. And I really like that aspect of the women's game. I think the physicality often takes too much of the focus away.
Yeah, no, Coach Kara Mori kind of agreed with you because when I talked to her later or earlier on this week, she was saying like how the physicality can cause some injuries to key players, and it also doesn't show off the skill that you guys have. So that's definitely an interesting answer, and it's something that I never considered before.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, the PWHPA did play some games in the U.S. At Madison Square Garden and in Chicago. What were your thoughts on those events taking place?
Yeah, I watched all of the games and I was honestly thrilled to see um, a professional women's hockey game being played at Madison Square Gardens. I think everyone was super pumped for that moment. I do think it should have been played earlier, and it's crazy to think that that's the first professional women's hockey game to be played there. But I think that's a great first step for women's hockey. Um, there was a lot of speed, a lot of great skill showed in those games. So I think it was an awesome showing of the talent that we can bring.
Was it cool seeing Billie Jean King there as well? That was a cool moment for me.
Yeah, it was awesome. She's been an awesome advocate for us.
Now, I want to ask you some college hockey questions because Cornell this year did not get a season. The Ivy League canceled this year. I guess what was your thoughts on that? And just what was your thoughts on the junior class that was, I mean, your junior class when you were a senior? Like, did you contact them at all? Because that seems like a tough decision ending off your college hockey career like that.
Yeah, of course. It was pretty devastating for them. I mean, they really got I mean, they got their season cut short last year too, obviously, when I was a senior. And then they didn't even get to play a season this year. So um, they really they really didn't get lucky on that. Yeah, I contacted most of them. I mean, I was close with them when I went to Cornell, and I'm still good friends with all of them. So they really felt it, and I'm devastated for them. Hopefully, they can take all their good memories away from Cornell and not the one that ended their hockey career. But a few of them are going to continue playing, which is awesome. But unfortunately, most of them aren't. So it's pretty sad that their career had to end like that and see their opponents keep playing. I think that was the hardest part to see the national championship being played still and other leagues still continuing to play. So
Yeah, did you watch any college hockey this year, even though the Ivy League wasn't in it?
yeah, I watched a few games. I definitely followed along, but I wouldn't say I watched a lot of it. I think I'm still feeling the loss of my season, as is all of the Cornell team and obviously all of the Ivy League too. Um, but yeah, I definitely followed along, and yeah, some college girls are here this week too at camp. So
Now, what was your thoughts on Dara Watts's overtime winner goal for Wisconsin? Because that was a kind of a cool goal that she scored.
yeah, it was awesome. Daryl's actually on my team this week, so um, it was fun to congratulate her for the big win. And yeah, that goal was awesome. Didn't see it coming, but
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone saw it coming. That's what made it pretty special, in my opinion.
yeah,
But I guess like one thing I found interesting for Cornell is they're going to have two basically new freshman classes coming into the team next year. If you were on the team, like what type of leadership would you provide to those players, having such a younger team?
Yeah, so it's going to be a very new team. I think the girls with experience really have to take the lead next year. There's not many people with experience, which will be the most challenging thing. Um, but definitely those girls that have played in a few games, and there's older girls on the team, so I think they'll really have to step up and take the lead. I know they can, and that'll be a great test for those older girls next year.
Definitely, definitely. Are you making plans to go back to Ithaca once things are normal again?
Yes, definitely. Once the Canadian U.S. border open, I will be in Ithaca watching a Cornell game as soon as I can.
Is it gonna be weird seeing someone wear your number? Because I feel like that's gonna be the weirdest part as graduating is seeing someone else wearing your number that you've worn for 4 years.
Yeah, it's a bit bittersweet. I want to say I wish someone wasn't wearing it, but I know they'll take great care of it, and I'm really excited to see what the next generation of Cornell hockey does.
Now, how did Cornell help prepare you being a professional athlete today?
Yeah, so I think the earlier generations of Cornell hockey really inspired me to go there in the first place. The girls that I'm playing with even on my team, like Jill Saunier, Rebecca Johnston, Brianne Jenner, they were a big reason why I went to Cornell in the first place. I saw them playing with Team Canada, and that's what I wanted to do when I was their age. So that was a big contributor to my decision when I was in high school. But Cornell, it just really pushed me as a person, not just a hockey player, but a student, an athlete, and just an overall person. The environment of Cornell hockey is really um, to bring out the all-around human in you, not just the athlete. So I think Doug Dara really harps on that. So I'm really um, lucky to have had that experience.
So we're now in the non-hockey segment of the podcast where I ask you some non-hockey questions. Now, this non-hockey segment is a little bit different than last time because I just found some random questions on the internet. So I'm curious to see what your thoughts on this. So the first one is, if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
Oh man. Uh, That's a really hard question, and I'm kind of blanking on a lot of actresses' names. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I can't think of anyone.
I guess for myself, I don't know if Sidney Crosby was a actor. That'd be cool if he played me because he would make me look a lot better for some of the hockey scenes than I was ever like. So maybe that would be a cool one.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That's a good choice. I don't know if you would be into acting, but maybe.
Maybe a few years down the line. He's still got a few years left with the Penguins, so I don't want to rush him just yet. But I think that'll be interesting. Maybe something he can do after he retires.
Yeah.
Now, what is the most interesting thing you've seen or read this week?
Um, I don't know if I would use the word interesting, but the news has been awfully sort of addicting to listen to as this whole year. I think a lot of the COVID news in Ontario is really, um, it's very negative, but it's also hard not to listen to. So I think that's the biggest news as of late.
Yeah, no, I guess for myself is just like the whole transfer portal stuff because it's pretty interesting this year in college hockey since there is an extra year of eligibility. So a lot of players are transferring. So it's interesting to see like which players, which school they're going to, and how that's going to work out for the recruiting process in the next four
Yeah, for
years.
sure.
Now, what was your first ever job you had?
My first ever job. I haven't had many jobs because I've been playing hockey for so long, but I did teach tennis at my cottage. I think babysitting though probably was my first job. I always babysat at my cottage in the summer. There was always a lot of little kids, so um, yeah, babysitting.
Mhm. How do you tennis seems like is that a hard sport? Like I know it probably is, but like how do you teach it? Because it seems like I don't get it every time I watch it because it's so complicated.
The rules aren't actually that complicated, but um, in my summer months, I used to teach tennis to really young kids, so it wasn't necessarily like sometimes they didn't even have a racket. It was just like we were playing tag, so it was almost like I was babysitting them also. So
Yeah,
I don't even know if I would call it teaching tennis, but yeah, it's a really, really fun sport. I grew up playing it during the summer at my cottage, so yeah, it
yeah.
was super.
Yeah, no, I'm more of a golf guy when it comes to like summer sports. Like that's mostly what I do just because I
Fun.
grew up near a golf course. But no, I definitely should try out tennis. I think that'll be a fun thing to do this summer.
Yeah, I'm not too good at golf. My dad always tried to teach me to play, but I'm not too good.
Is it the short game or the long game? That's usually people who struggle with
Um,
one of
I
those.
mean, I love mini putting, so I
Yeah.
guess the short game. But I tend to just try to hit it as hard as I can, and not necessarily where I should hit it. So
It's a fun game. Like it's the very hard game, but it's a fun game. Like once you get used to it, I think the struggle that I have is putting. Like I'm really bad at it, so that's the thing I keep working on every time I go to the course.
okay. I'll have
Now,
to
what
try again this summer.
definitely. Now, what music do you like to listen to?
I really like country, especially in the summer, when I go to my cottage. But I like a whole different. I like different kinds of music, like the top 50 songs in pop. I always like. I like folk, like the Lumineers, and but I would say country is my favorite genre.
Nice. Who's your go-to artist for country? Are you more old school or new school?
Probably new school. I really like Morgan Wallen. It's pretty mainstream, but his
Hmm.
songs are super catchy.
Yeah, no. Which arena had the best warm-up mix in your opinion? Because that's a controversy amongst a lot of players that I talk to.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually have to say, I know Jessie Eldridge did her Colgate playlist when she was at Cornell, or sorry, Colgate, and it was always really good. Their speakers were super loud, so I think we were always liking the playlist when we played there.
I think your warm-up mix is interesting because it's the band playing. I always thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it like switches between the band and actual music, so but our speakers were never as loud as the other new arenas, so sometimes it would be a little in and out, but I loved when the band would be playing our warm up music.
Now, random question: how do you prepare for warm-ups? I'm always curious. Like, do they just throw you out there and you just learn what drills you do during warm-ups, or is there like a practice that the coach tells you like what you have to do during warm-ups?
Um, the the coach never really tells us what we have to do, but as captains, like we plan the warm up, and it's the same every game. So we teach it like we taught it to the girls at Cornell, and then we would continue that warm up every game, and then each year it probably changes a bit, but it doesn't necessarily change year to year. It's generally in team to team. It's usually the same few drills that we do.
So it's just like skating around the ice, taking some shots, and then stretching, and then doing those passing drills. That's what I every time I watch warm-ups, that's the normal ones that I see.
Yeah, and then doing a few breakouts, and then it's usually like a little shooting game at the end, and then people stay on or get off. But it's generic.
Were you the last one to leave the ice, or were you one of the first people to leave?
At Cornell, I definitely, well, actually, I had to shake the ref's hand as a captain, so had to be the last one there. But I'm usually one of the last people on the ice. Definitely not the first to leave, but usually I don't stay to the very end because that means you have to pick up the puck. So
Yeah, that's usually a freshman that does that.
yeah.
No, normally the goalie is the one that leaves the first, which I'm very surprised about. But I think because they want to stay focused after they do their drills.
Yeah, they're a different breed, so
Hmm.
they may have some wild. I don't know.
Who was the hardest goalie you was? Who was the hardest goalie to score on when you're in college? I'm curious.
In college, thinking back on, um, the goalie for RPI, Slovander. I think I might be saying her last name wrong, but she was very, very good when we played her. I think we played RPI in playoffs, I think my junior year, and we attempted like I want to say like 65 shots or something and only scored like one or two. So she was very talented when we played against her. I think she graduated a year ahead of me, so luckily we didn't have to play her.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah,
I'm trying to think who else. Shea Tilley, I know, was a great goalie for the
yeah,
ECAC with
yeah.
Clarkson. And Kristen Campbell, like there was a tournament run. I think it's when they won in 2019 where she didn't allow a single goal throughout the entire tournament.
Yeah, we that year we were at or yeah, we were at the Frozen Four or sorry, that was 2020 when we went to the Frozen Four in my junior year and we played her.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, we played Cassidy Sauve when she played for Clarkson as well. She's stellar. She's here this week too. So
that's awesome. Do you
yeah.
ever like reconnect about those memories, I guess? Or do they not like to talk about it? Because I know some people like are just not really interested in talking about those stuff.
Um, it's definitely funny being here and knowing they were like your worst enemy at one point, but especially Clarkson because we always had that rivalry with them. But we don't really. I mean, we're all friends now, so we don't really talk about it. But I think inside all of our heads, we're still
Mhm.
picturing when we were opponents.
Yeah, is it a bit awkward like when after your season ended in college to go to the like to go to those like U18 like or U22 camps and like see some of your biggest rivals and now your teammates?
Yeah, sometimes I think you just at that point you just got to put it aside and realize that you're teammates now. But yeah, sometimes at the when we were younger, it was definitely more awkward. But we're more mature now, so I think it's easier to put those things aside, especially now that most of us have graduated now.
hmm Now back to some the non-hockey questions. We were talking about some of the things we are trying to cook. What's your favorite thing to cook?
um, I really like Thai and Asian inspired meals, so I think like rice noodles and like a peanut sauce and that kind of meal is really good. I like to make pad thai and um, pad thai with shrimp. I think that's one of my go-to meals. So yeah.
I've I've never had Thai food, believe it or
Oh
not.
really?
Yeah, I
Oh
know I should try that.
yeah, it's one of my favorite cuisines. It's always good, no matter the restaurant. So I highly suggest it.
Was there any good Thai places near Cornell that you used to go to?
um, we had one place. I don't think it was necessarily defined as Thai, but had a lot of like the noodle bowls and rice bowls and stuff. So yeah.
Now you're talking about your college, so like cottage. So like, what is the best vacation you've ever been on? Is it where at the cottage?
Yeah. I actually I haven't traveled too much, um, just because my family's always been so busy with hockey and sports and everything. So, but we used to go to my cottage like for the whole 2 months of summer. Um, so yeah, I think I love going there. It's a little town. It's right on the beach. So, and we have a great group of friends there. So it's always so nice going back there. That's definitely my favorite close to home vacation. But I guess we'll see where my favorite vacation spot is in the future.
Is there any place you want to visit in the future, like on your bucket list?
There's a lot of places on my bucket list. Definitely want to go to Asia. I've been to a few places in Europe, but I definitely want to go back there and visit more in Europe. Um, yeah, I think Australia would be super cool also. Um, even places in the States like the Midwest, I've never been to. I've been to California, but definitely want to go back. So there's a lot on my bucket list. We'll have to start somewhere.
Yeah, no, I've the number one thing I want to do is go like on a West Coast like trip through like some of the national parks, and I've
Yeah,
always wanted to do it. It's just crazy though, because like people don't realize how big the United States is compared to like other countries. Because
no,
driving from California to like Massachusetts is like a 3 day thing, and it's a long trip. But I would love to do it. I feel like it'd be a fun thing to do is like stop at the Grand Canyon and stop at other national parks.
yeah, that would be awesome.
Something else that's on my bucket list is Banff National Park. Have you ever been there before?
I have been there. So we used to have a August camp for Hockey Canada every year, and we would drive to Banff on our day off, and it's awesome there. I definitely want to go during the winter again. I think I went with my family a while back when I was younger, but I think every season would be great there. It's so beautiful. So
Mhm.
I'll have to get there someday.
No, I love to go. That's like one of my things because I've seen some of the photos from there. It's just they don't even look real. It's so awesome. Like it
Yeah,
seems so cool.
it's so blue and it
Hmm.
would be so fun to skate on too.
Is the air there like so pure? I'm curious about that because it feels like it just seems more fresher since there's not like any like developments happening there.
Yeah, in Banff, like the actual town, there's a bit more like development now. So, but I think definitely if you went off into like the more of the wilderness in Banff, it would be more pure. What there definitely is some development now.
How many tourists go there, like, when you were there? Because something I was doing research on it, apparently, like, some of the big spots where, like, you take the best photos, there's just, like, filled with, like, tourists, and that's something people don't consider.
Yeah, I bet there's a lot. I don't know too much about it, but it's definitely a hot spot for tourism. So I bet there's a lot of people at every season.
Now, back to some hockey questions now. My first question to you is I'm curious to hear your opinion on this. Who is the most underrated female hockey player?
Oh wow, that's a tough question. Um, I think Melody Dao is the most underrated. Honestly, she impresses me at every practice and every time we're on the ice. I know everyone knows she's good, but I don't think people realize how good she is every single day. So I think I've been super impressed with playing with her and against her. So I think maybe I underestimated her. I don't know if other people did, but she has been a really big pleasure to be her teammate and just watch what she can do.
Yeah, definitely. I think for myself is one of your former teammates, Maddie Mills. I always love watching her play, and I feel like she doesn't get enough credit than she actually deserves.
But yeah, I completely agree. She's actually one of my best friends, so I don't underrate her because I know how good she is, but I definitely can see that.
I think another player is probably Rebecca Leslie. She's always impressed me a lot, and I think she has a shot at making the team this year. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah, me too. She's very consistent and also a great teammate. So
Now, what were your thoughts on the podcast since we last had you on? And I want to apologize because I was listening to the first interview I did with you, and I was pretty bad, not gonna lie. I was so nervous, so I
that's
apologize for
okay.
that.
No worries. I thought it was great. It's really fun to listen to these, and you have so many different people on, so it's fun to. I feel like I'm getting to know people even though I don't actually know them, so that's kind of fun.
Is there any guests that we should have on in the future that you might know?
You should have Maddie Mills. I don't know. I don't think you've had her on, but she's going to. She played with me on my line at Cornell, and she's transferring to Northeastern. So I think that would be a cool perspective. Like you said, you're interested in the hockey portal, and she's obviously had experience with that being a transfer next year.
Now, what are some things I guess you took away from the interview when we last had you on?
I think it was fun to think about my experience as you asked me questions because it was pretty early in my season. Or yeah, it was during the summer and my season had just ended, and I honestly don't think I really allowed myself to think too much about it. But talking with you sort of let me think about my experience and how lucky I was to have been able to go to Cornell and been coached by my coaches and played with my teammates. So I think I was just all the more appreciative of my experience after we talked.
Yeah, no, I hopefully that's what I hope to get out from this podcast is just the guests to guess I guess for the guests to like express like how they felt for during situations when they were in college and when they were professional athletes as well. So I'm glad you had that experience. Is there anything you want to talk about? The floor is all yours. I normally do shout outs. Is there any shout outs you might have missed last time we had you on or anything you want to say for the next 30 seconds?
No, I think I've said all that I wanted to. So thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you once again, Kristen, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Every teammate that I've had on from Cornell that's been your teammate says you're the hardest worker ever. And I definitely agree with them on that. You're a super great hockey player, but you're also a better person off the ice. And I just want to let you know that. So take care and stay safe. And thank you once again for coming on.
Okay. Thank you so much. Stay safe as well.
I just have one question.